The space station called Perihelion 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was home to the Galactic Integration Academy, a school where young people from 12 different alien species came to learn together. They studied to become diplomats, scientists, and peacekeepers. The academy was proud of its long history. 300 years of teaching. 300 years of bringing species together. When the headmaster received a message about a human transfer student, he did not think much of it. Humans were new to space travel. They had only discovered how to fly between stars 30 years ago. Most aliens thought humans were interesting but not very important, like a child learning to walk while everyone else could already run. The headmaster was unnamed. He was tall and looked like a giant insect with hard shell skin and 4 eyes that could see in every direction. He read the file about the new student with little interest. Her name was. She was 17 years old by Earth counting. Her scores were average. She had no special skills listed. Nothing about her seemed remarkable. "Put her in the back row of Lecture Hall 7, told his assistant. "She will need time to adjust. We do not want her to slow down the better students." The back row was where they put students they expected to fail. The ones who would quit after a few months. The ones who would cry and go home. Everyone knew this. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew. Arrived on a small transport ship on a Tuesday morning. She carried one bag over her shoulder. She wore simple clothes. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She was small, even for a human. When she walked through the station's halls, aliens of all shapes and sizes passed her without a second look. She was easy to ignore, easy to forget. She found her classroom and took her seat in the back row. The desk was old and had scratches from many students before her. She set down her tablet and folded her hands. She waited. A student sitting 3 desks ahead turned to look at her. His name was. They were a proud species. They had green scales like lizards and sharp teeth. They came from a world of warriors and believed strength was everything. Looked at the way a person might look at a small bug. "Another human," he said to his friend, and with glowing skin that changed colors with her mood. "How long do you think this one will last before she runs home crying?" His friend laughed. The sound was like bells ringing. Heard them, she did not react. She did not look at them. She simply opened her tablet and began preparing for the lesson. Professor entered the room. He was a strange sight. His species came from a planet made of gas, so he wore a special suit filled with the air he needed to breathe. Through the suit's glass front, students could see swirling clouds of purple and gold. His voice came through speakers on the suit. "Today we continue our study of interstellar law," he announced. "Open your tablets to Chapter 7. The other students did as they were told. Some were eager. Some were bored. Was already on Chapter 10. She had read ahead during the long journey to the station, but she turned back to Chapter 7 and followed along, taking notes like everyone else. No one noticed that her notes were different. While other students simply wrote down what the professor said, was writing questions. She was finding connections between this chapter and chapters that would come later. She was thinking about problems that the professor would not mention for another 2 years. But she did not raise her hand. She did not speak. She did not draw attention to herself. After class, she walked to the dining hall alone. She took her food and found a small table in the corner. The dining hall was loud with the sounds of different languages, different species talking and laughing. No one invited her to sit with them. No one even looked at her. Ate her meal slowly. Her eyes moved around the room, watching everything. She saw how they sat together in one area, their voices loud and aggressive. She saw how they gathered near the windows, their skin glowing softly in different shades. She saw how a pale species with large black eyes sat apart from everyone else. They were empaths who could feel and control emotions. Other species found them unsettling. She saw another human across the room, a boy about her age with a nervous smile. He was sitting with a group of laughing at their jokes even when they were making fun of him. His name was. He had been at the academy for 1 year. He had learned that the best way to survive was to make himself small, to agree with everything, to never fight back. Watched him for a long moment. Something sad passed through her eyes. Then it was gone. She finished her meal, cleaned her tray, and returned to her room. It was small. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. She unpacked her single bag. Inside were clothes, a few books, and a photograph of an old woman with a weathered face and kind eyes. Placed the photograph on her desk. She looked at it for a long time. "I made it, grandmother," she said softly. "I am here." Then she sat down, opened her tablet, and began to study. She studied until the station's lights dimmed for night cycle. She studied until her eyes grew heavy, and even then she studied a little more. In the back row, invisible and ignored, was preparing for something. She did not know exactly when it would happen. She did not know exactly how. But she knew that one day, everyone in this academy would understand what it meant to underestimate a human. She just had to be patient. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was waiting. 3 weeks passed at the academy, went to her classes. She took her notes. She sat alone in the back row. She spoke only when professors asked her questions, and even then her answers were short and correct but never impressive. She was like a ghost, present but not really there. The grew annoyed by this. Among his people there were rules about new members of a group. The strong tested the weak. The weak showed submission or fought back. Either way, there was a response. There was acknowledgement, but this human girl gave him nothing. She did not seem afraid of him. She did not seem to even notice him, and that was unacceptable. Hazing was not allowed at the academy. The rules were clear about this, but rules and reality were different things. The teachers looked the other way. They always had. It was considered a natural part of learning. The strong species taught the weak species their place. Started with small attacks. One morning, arrived at her desk to find her tablet missing. She looked around calmly, then walked to the supply room and borrowed another one. She did not complain. She did not report it. The next day, her chair was adjusted so high that her feet could not touch the ground. She fixed it without comment. Her assignments began to have problems. Files became corrupted. Work disappeared before she could submit it. Each time, simply did the work again. She started keeping 3 copies of everything on different systems. She arrived at class early to check her desk. She carried her tablet everywhere. Watched and waited for her to break. He wanted to see fear in her eyes. He wanted to see anger. He wanted something, but gave him only silence and patience. It made him feel foolish. It made him feel ignored. And for a warrior, being ignored was worse than being challenged. So he decided to do something bigger. The xenobiology practical examination was an important test. Students had to handle live creatures from different planets. They had to identify species, note their characteristics, and demonstrate safe handling techniques. Professor Myra, a four-armed with blue fur and gentle eyes, supervised these tests carefully. On the morning of the examination, arrived early. He knew a student worker in the specimen storage area. He paid this student to make a small change. Instead of the harmless slug that was supposed to examine, her container would hold a spine crawler. The spine crawler was a dangerous creature. It was about the size of a human hand, with many legs and a row of venomous spines along its back. Its venom could paralyze for several hours, but humans had weaker nervous systems. For a human, the venom could stop the heart. It could kill. Did not think about this too carefully. He told himself it would probably just scare her. She would scream and run away. She would finally show weakness. That was all he wanted. The examination began at noon. Students took their places at their stations. Small containers sat in front of each student, waiting to be opened. Professor Myra explained the rules and safety procedures. Then she gave the signal to begin. Opened her container. The spine crawler was fast. It launched itself at her face before anyone could react. Its venom spines were raised and ready. Its legs reached out to grab onto skin. What happened next was talked about for years afterward. The security cameras recorded everything, but many who watched the recording did not believe what they saw. His hand moved. It was not the fastest movement anyone had ever seen. A warrior could have moved faster, and Dancer could have been more graceful, but his hand moved with a precision that seemed almost mechanical, perfect, exact, without wasted motion. She caught the spine crawler in midair. Her fingers closed around the one safe spot on its body, the narrow gap between its third and fourth spine segments. The creature's venomous spines waved uselessly in the air, unable to touch her. It struggled in her grip, but she held it firmly. The room went completely silent. "Professor," said in a calm voice, "I think there has been a mistake with my specimen. This is a spine crawler. I was assigned a slug." Professor Myra rushed over, her four arms waving in shock and concern. "How did you do that?" she demanded. "The strike speed of that creature is faster than most species can see. How did you catch it?" "My grandmother taught me," said simply. She placed the spine crawler gently into a secure container that Professor Myra held out. "She grew up in the countryside in Korea on Earth. There were many poisonous snakes there. She taught me how to catch them when I was young. You have to watch their eyes. They always look where they are going to strike. Then you just move before they do." She said this like it was nothing special, like catching deadly creatures was something everyone learned as a child. Professor Myra stared at her. The other students stared at her with something that might have been fear. "This is unacceptable," Professor Myra said, her voice shaking with anger. "Someone deliberately put this creature in the wrong container. This is attempted murder. There will be an investigation." There was an investigation, but no one confessed, and the student worker had already left the station on a transport ship. The case went cold. Was never officially blamed, but everyone knew. Everyone saw how he looked at now. Everyone saw how he kept his distance. After that day, no one sat within 2 desks of the back row. Students told themselves it was because they did not want to be associated with mistake. They told themselves it was respect for space, but deep down in the quiet parts of their minds, they felt something else. They looked at the small human girl sitting alone in the back row. They looked at her calm eyes and her still hands, and they wondered what else she was hiding. What else could a human do that they did not know about? Notice the empty desks around her. She did not smile. She did not react at all. She simply opened her tablet and continued her work. She had made her point without saying a word. But she was not finished, not even close. The academy had a ranking system. Every student earned points through tests, practical work, and demonstrations. But the fastest way to gain points was through formal challenges. Any student could challenge another to a contest. The winner took points from the loser. This was how ambitious students climbed to the top. Had never challenged anyone. She had few points anyway, so no one bothered to challenge her. She remained invisible in the rankings, somewhere near the bottom where no one looked. For 2 months after the spine crawler incident, things were quiet. Students avoided her, but no one bothered her either. She attended classes. She studied. She watched. She watched most carefully. Was the other human she had seen on her first day. He was a year older than her. He had come to the academy hopping to prove that humans deserved respect, but somewhere along the way he had lost himself. He laughed at jokes about humans being primitive. He agreed when aliens said his species was weak. He made himself small in every way, hoping that if he did not threaten anyone, they would accept him. They did not accept him. They only treated him worse. The student named had made his special project. They were empaths. They could feel the emotions of others. Some used this gift to help people to heal emotional wounds, but used it for entertainment. He would find someone's weakness, their shame or fear, and he would amplify it. He would make them feel it so strongly that they could not hide it anymore. Then everyone could see and laugh. His weakness was his desperate need to be accepted. His shame about being human. Found these feelings and played with them like toys. He would sit near in the dining hall and make him feel worthless, make him feel like nothing, and would shrink smaller and smaller while the aliens around him laughed. Watch this happen again and again. Her face showed nothing, but inside something was building. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. Was eating lunch alone, sat down across from him with a group of friends. They wanted a show, was happy to provide one. He reached out with his empathic abilities. He found every bit of shame and sadness in his heart. He pulled these feelings to the surface and amplified them beyond anything could control. Began to cry, not just small tears, great heaving sobs that shook his whole body. He could not stop. He could not even understand why he was crying. The emotions were too strong, too overwhelming. They were not even fully his own. Leaned back and smiled. The aliens around him laughed. It was the best show had performed all month. On the other side of the dining hall, stood up. The room slowly went quiet. People turned to look at the small human girl walking towards table. Her footsteps were the only sound in the silence. She stopped in front of. "I challenge you," she said. His pale face showed surprise, then amusement. "A challenge from the ghost girl, the back row nobody," he laughed. "What could you possibly offer me? You have no points worth taking." "I offer all my points against all of yours," said. "I choose the contest." Whispers filled the room. Was ranked 5th in their year. He had thousands of points, had less than 100. If she lost, it meant nothing. But if she won. "Accepted," said, still smiling. "This will be amusing. Name your contest, human." Looked at him with those dark, still eyes. Then she smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Endurance," she said. "We run until one of us stops." The track around the academy was 3 kilometers for each lap. The environmental controls were set to preferences because had home advantage. The air was thin. The gravity was low. The temperature was cold. The whole academy came to watch. They expected the contest to be over quickly. Humans were not known for endurance, were marathon hunters on their home world. They could chase prey for days without stopping. They started at dawn. Was confident. He set a comfortable pace, matched it exactly. Lap after lap they ran together. The crowd grew bored after the first hour. Many left to attend classes, planning to return for the ending. By noon they had completed 30 laps. 90 kilometers, was still running, but he was confused. His stamina should have broken the human long ago, but ran beside him like a machine. Her breathing was steady. Her pace never changed. He reached out with his empathic abilities, trying to find her exhaustion, trying to find her pain and amplify it, trying to find any weakness he could exploit. He found nothing. Not resistance, not hidden emotions behind a wall, just nothing. A void where feelings should be. He could not find her fear because she had none. He could not find her doubt because there was none. There was only a calm, cold, endless determination. "What are you?" he gasped as they started lap 31. Did not look at him. Her eyes were fixed ahead, seeing something beyond the track, beyond the station. "I am human," she said. Her voice was steady even as they ran. "My ancestors survived on a dangerous planet for 200,000 years. They did not have claws or venom or thick skin. They could not fly or swim very deep. They were not the fastest or the strongest." She turned her head slightly to look at him. "But they could run. They could run and never stop. On the African plains, our ancestors would chase animals until the animals' hearts exploded from exhaustion. We call it persistence hunting. The prey would always be faster at first, but we never stopped. We never gave up. And in the end, we always won." Felt something he had never felt before. Fear, true fear, not the kind he made others feel. This was his own. You made Cry, continued, her voice growing colder. You made him ashamed of what he is, but you cannot make me feel shame. I am proud of my species. I am proud of what we survived, and I will run until this station falls into a star before I let you win. Lap 40 came and went, lap 45. His legs were shaking, his lungs burned. His mind was screaming at him to stop, but every time he looked at, she looked exactly the same as when they started. On lap 47 collapsed. He fell to his knees, then onto his side. He could not breathe. He could not move. He could only watch as ran past him without slowing down. She completed 3 more laps before she stopped. 50 laps, 150 kilometers. Then she walked to where the officials were waiting and quietly claimed her victory. She now held his ranking, 5th in their year, all his points, all his status. But she was not interested in those things. She walked over to where was standing in the crowd. His eyes were wide with disbelief, with hope. You are human, she said to him. Do not ever let them make you forget that. Our ancestors conquered a planet. Our will conquer the stars. Hold your head high. Then she walked away, calm and silent, as the crowd parted before her. After that day, no one sat within 3 desks of the back row, and began to smile again. Every year, the Academy held a grand exhibition. Each species would showcase what made them special, what gifts they brought to the galaxy. They performed ancient warrior dances, their scales flashing under the lights. They created songs made of pure light that painted pictures in the air. They demonstrated their mathematical architecture, building impossible shapes that seemed to float on nothing. The humans had never participated. What could they show? Their species was too new, too primitive. They had no ancient traditions worthy of display, no special abilities that the other species did not already have in greater measure. This year would be different. Signed up the human delegation without asking anyone. There were only 3 humans at the Academy now. Herself, and a quiet engineering student named who rarely spoke to anyone. When she told them about her plan, was nervous. What can we possibly show them? He asked. We have nothing impressive. We have the truth, said. It is time they learned what humans really are. The exhibition hall was filled with hundreds of students and teachers. Diplomats from distant worlds sat in the front rows. Cameras would broadcast this event to planets across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see what the primitive humans would do. Walked to the center of the stage alone. The lights dimmed until only she was visible. She looked small and fragile in that great empty space. Thank you for coming, she said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the hall. I know many of you expect little from us. Humanity is new to the stars. We have only been traveling between worlds for 30 years. By your standards, we are children just learning to walk. She paused, the audience waited. But I would like to tell you about where we came from, not the version in your databases, not the simple summary that says we are from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. I want to tell you the real story. She raised her hand and the display screens around the hall lit up with images. A planet of blue oceans and green lands, mountains and deserts, ice and fire. Earth is a dangerous world. In our planet's history, massive rocks from space have struck the surface and killed almost everything alive. Supervolcanoes have erupted and blocked out the sun for years. Ice ages have frozen the planet from pole to pole. Plagues have killed half our population. Predators with claws and teeth hunted us for food. Earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, and floods have destroyed our cities again and again. The images showed disasters, destruction, death on scales that made the audience shift uncomfortably in their seats. And yet here we are, continued. Every time our planet tried to kill us, we survived, we adapted, we learned, we grew stronger. She looked directly at the delegation. You pride yourselves on your endurance, on your ability to chase prey across frozen wastelands. But on Earth, our ancestors invented something called persistence hunting. We would chase animals for days, never stopping until the animals died of exhaustion. Not because we were faster, because we never gave up. The diplomats looked at each other with concern. Looked at the... You pride yourselves on your warrior traditions, on your strength and your weapons, but humans have been fighting each other for 200,000 years. We developed every kind of weapon your species knows, plus many you have never imagined. We learned to kill from distance, in the dark, across oceans and continents. When we finally stopped fighting each other, we turned that same terrible genius toward the stars. They remained very still. But these are not the things that make us special, said, her voice softened. We are not just survivors, we are not just warriors, we are something more. She pressed another button. The screens showed different images now. Humans helping each other after disasters, doctors treating sick children, firefighters running into burning buildings, soldiers carrying wounded enemies to safety. We call it love, said. It is not logical. It is not efficient. Humans will risk their own lives to save strangers they have never met. They will give food from their own mouths to feed the hungry. They will donate organs from their own bodies to save people from distant countries. Not because anyone forces them, not because they expect reward, but because they cannot stop themselves from caring. She looked at who was standing at the edge of the stage. You pushed one of us into a corner, she said, her voice growing harder. You made him feel ashamed of what he is. You tried to break him because you thought he was weak, but he was not weak. He was patient. He was hoping you would choose to be kind. That is not weakness. That is strength you cannot imagine. She turned back to the audience. Humans feel everything deeply. Joy and sorrow, love and hate, hope and fear. We cannot turn off these feelings like you can. They burn inside us like fire. But instead of consuming us, they make us stronger. They drive us forward. They make us do impossible things. She raised her hand again. The final set of images appeared. Humans in space suits floating among the stars, ships flying between planets, cities on the moon, dreams becoming reality. 30 years ago, we discovered we were not alone in the universe. Many of you thought we would be afraid, that we would hide on our planet and hope the galaxy forgot about us. Instead, we built ships. We learned your languages. We knocked on your doors and asked to be your friends. She smiled. It was a warm smile, gentle and genuine. You put me in the back row because you thought I was nothing. You left empty seats around me because you learned to fear what I might be. But I did not come here to be feared. I came here to show you what humanity offers the galaxy. She stepped forward, her eyes shining. We offer persistence. When your species grows tired, we will help carry the weight. We offer pattern recognition. Humans see connections that others miss. We find order in chaos, meaning in madness. We will help you solve problems you did not know you had. She paused. We offer spite. This is a dark gift, but sometimes it is needed. When empires try to crush what we love, we will make them regret it for 1,000 generations. Humans do not surrender. We burn down our own houses rather than let our enemies take them. We are not logical about this. We do not care about cost or odds. We simply refuse to lose. Her voice softened again. But most of all, we offer love, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but because that is what humans do. We love fiercely and foolishly and without limit. We will die for people whose names we do not know. We will cross the galaxy to help strangers in need. This is our gift. This is what we bring to the stars. She stood tall in the center of the stage. You can put us in the back row. You can ignore us. You can underestimate us. But you cannot stop us from caring about you. You cannot stop us from trying to make this galaxy better. And you cannot stop us from loving you even when you hurt us. She bowed her head. That is what humanity is. That is what we offer. I hope you will let us be your partners among the stars. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then the applause began. It started slowly from a few hands here and there. Then it grew. It became a wave of sound that shook the walls. Headmaster stood up. His 4 eyes were wide with something that might have been wonder. After that night, no one sat within 4 desks of the back row. But it was no longer about fear. It was about respect. 4 years passed like water flowing through open hands. The academy changed in ways both large and small. The ranking system was reformed after questions were raised about fairness. More humans applied for admission each year. Some were accepted. The back row of Lecture Hall 7 became famous. Students from other classes would sometimes walk by just to look at the seat where the quiet human girl had sat, but was no longer in the back row. By her 2nd year, professors had moved her to the front. They could not ignore her anymore. Her examination scores broke records. Her practical demonstrations showed skills that should have taken decades to develop. When she spoke in class, the other students went quiet and listened. By her 3rd year, she was helping to teach some courses. Younger students came to her for advice. They were not all human, and others sat in her study groups and learned things that were not in any textbook. They learned about patience, about persistence, about finding strength in apparent weakness. By her 4th year, she was ranked first in the academy, not first among humans, first overall, higher than any warrior, higher than any mathematician, higher than any student from any species in 300 years of the academy's history. Was ranked 7th. He had stopped making himself small. He walked with his head high now. He laughed at jokes about humans, but his laugh was different. It was the laugh of someone who knew a secret, who knew that being underestimated was a gift. Was ranked 12th. He still rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. He had designed a new type of engine that made starships faster and more efficient. Several species were already asking to buy the design. Graduation day arrived with ceremony and tradition. The graduating class sat in circles around a central platform. The best seats, the ones closest to the stage, had once been reserved for the old and powerful species. Now those seats held a mixture of beings from many worlds, including 5 humans. 3 more had joined the academy in the years after its exhibition. They had heard her words echoing across the galaxy and had come to prove that she was not unique, that humanity was not a single miracle, but a species of miracles. Headmaster walked slowly to the podium. He was older now. His shell had turned gray at the joints. His movements were stiff, but his 4 eyes were brighter than they had been in years. When I first admitted a human to this academy, he began, I did so as a curiosity. I expected nothing from her. I placed her in the back row where we put students we assume will fail. I did not bother to read her file carefully. I did not give her a fair chance. I was wrong. He turned to look at, who stood at the front of the platform between and. I was not wrong because I underestimated her abilities. Many of us made that mistake. I was wrong because I failed to understand what humans are. I thought you were newcomers, primitive people who had stumbled onto the stars by accident, children who needed to be taught everything. He shook his head slowly. You are not newcomers. You have been preparing for this moment for 200,000 years. Every war your species fought made you harder. Every peace you built made you wiser. Every time you fell, you learned how to rise again. You did not arrive at the galactic stage by accident. You climbed here using your own blood and tears and endless determination, and you will not be pushed back down. The audience was silent. Every eye was fixed on the stage. Raised a ceremonial staff. Its crystal tip glowed with soft light. Of Earth, he announced. First in her class, champion of 17 formal challenges, holder of the Persistence Medal, the Pattern Seeker's Crown, and the Medal of Moral Courage. You have earned the right to speak before this assembly. What words do you offer to those who will follow you? Stepped forward. She was still small, still quiet. Her dark eyes still seemed to absorb everything around her while revealing nothing of what lay within. But when she spoke, her voice filled the hall like thunder. 4 years ago, they put me in the back row because they thought I was nothing. They left 4 desks empty around me because they learned to fear what I might be. But I did not come here to be feared, and I did not come here to prove myself. She looked at her fellow graduates. Warriors who had once mocked humans now sat in respectful silence. Empaths who had once believed humans were emotionally primitive now understood that human feelings ran deeper than any they had ever sensed. And a dozen other species waited to hear what she would say. I came here to show you what humanity offers the galaxy, she continued. Not what we take, what we give. She raised her hand, palm upward. We give persistence. When your species grows tired of fighting, we will keep going. When your hope fades, we will carry it for you. We do not stop. We cannot stop. It is not in our nature. She raised her other hand. We give pattern recognition. We see things that others miss. We find connections in chaos. We solve problems that have no solutions. This is how we survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day. She brought her hands together. We give spite. This sounds like a terrible gift, but sometimes it is needed. When evil rises and threatens to destroy everything good, humans will fight it with everything we have. We will sacrifice ourselves. We will burn our own cities. We will do whatever it takes to protect what we love. Our enemies call this madness. We call it determination. Her voice softened. But most of all, we give love. We love our families. We love our friends. We love strangers we will never meet. We love enemies who have hurt us. We cannot stop loving. It is the fire that drives everything we do. She looked at and smiled warmly. You tried to break one of us. You made him feel small and worthless. But you could not break him because we carry each other. When one human falls, another picks them up. We do not abandon our own. We never have. We never will. She turned back to the crowd. You gave me the back row. I took the front. You left 4 desks empty. I filled this academy with new humans who will fill every seat. You expected us to fail. We exceeded every expectation you had. She stood tall, her eyes shining with something that might have been tears or might have been starlight. This is not victory. This is not revenge. This is just the beginning. Humanity is here now. We are part of this galaxy, and we are going to make it better than we found it. Not because we have to, because we choose to, because we cannot help ourselves from trying to help everyone around us. She raised her hand in the Academy's traditional salute. I am of Earth, I am human, and I am proud of what I am. The applause that followed shook the station to its core. It went on, wave after wave, until it became something more than sound. It became a promise, a welcome, an acceptance that was long overdue. In the observation gallery, far in the back row where no one had bothered to check, a young girl sat alone. Her name was. She had arrived that morning on a small transport ship with one bag over her shoulder. She had been assigned to the back row of Lecture Hall 7. She had been expected to fail, but was not afraid. She had watched the speech with tears streaming down her face. She had understood every word, and now she smiled. The back row was not a punishment. It was not a place for failures. It was a starting point, a beginning, the first step on a long journey. Humanity had arrived at the stars, and they were only getting started. Wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders, and walked out to find her classroom. Tomorrow, she would begin her own story. And somewhere in the crowd below felt something, a small spark of new potential arriving at the station. She did not know who or where, but she smiled anyway. The future was bright, and it would be filled with humans.